I mean, the roadmap obviously is something that you all approved, and you approved it because we needed to have outside consultants confirming, in many cases, what we knew already we needed to do about the climate crisis. But because this board had created not only an advisory committee to the board, of which I am a member, but also a goal for clean energy as of 2030, we needed to know how to get there. And so the roadmap, which was presented to you in one form a few weeks ago by the roadmap consultants themselves, is going to be presented to you in another form today by Sam, who, of course, is one of those people who can brilliantly take information and make it accessible to the world. So she's going to sort of just bear down on the recommendations. And the only purpose for me to be here at all is to let you know that today, 9 million people are under flood watch from Washington, D.C. to California. Who knew I was going to wake up to that news after having gone to bed last night, having read that the COP28 President Al-Jaber in Dubai, the conference of the parties of the United Nations for climate change, started last Thursday. There are 97,000 people in Dubai at this conference. I mean, it is really staggering in a certain sense. But he was quoted as saying, there is no science out there. There's no scenario out there that says that the phase out of fossil fuels is what's going to achieve 1.5 degrees. And the slide that you may or may not have in front of you.
Not up yet, Sam.
Oh, it's not up yet. Okay, coming up. Coming up, there is a slide which just indicates that we've actually had two 2-degree days in the last 10 days. So I'm kind of in this place of being, I don't know how to be more supportive of what the Secretary General said himself when he opened the conference on Thursday. But at that point, he said the 1.5 degree limit is only possible if we ultimately stop burning fossil fuels. Not reduce, not abate. There's a lot of conversation about abating, by the way, which maybe I'll take a second to talk about after this quote. He says, phase out with a clear time frame aligned with 1.5 degrees. That's what we need. We must also commit to triple renewables. That's what we're doing here. Double energy efficiency and bring clean energy to all by 2030. So his goals are not dissimilar from our goals. And when he talks about not abating, he's talking about the fact that the conference opened with this enormous announcement that all the oil companies have gotten together to reduce methane emissions. It's an abatement carbon capture program. In the United States, we actually have one carbon capture commercial facility. It takes 1,000 tons of CO2 out of the air each year. That's the equivalent of 200 cars driving. I would suggest that might be a drop in the bucket from a carbon capture point of view. So far, things are not so exciting coming from Dubai, but we shall see. Whether things get better. The other piece of maybe this slide is the fact that the U.S. has had $23 billion weather disasters in the last decade. And that sort of is another indication of why this is so critical for us to be thinking about. So having sort of just reminded us in a certain sense of why this matters. And keep in mind that I understand that individually we're each a drop in the bucket. I even understand that as a municipality we're a drop in the bucket. I understand that as a state we're a drop in the bucket. Even federally we're probably a big drop, but we're still a drop in the bucket. But all those drops ultimately have got to come together because otherwise we're not going to fix this problem. So I wanted to thank, however, because I'm in this grateful mode every morning as I walk the beach of East Hampton, which I consider to be my personal paradise, for the energy and sustainability accomplishments that the town has already achieved. In 2013, they appointed our committee, which has been incredibly active. 2014, we became the first municipality in New York State to control the 100% energy that to commit to the fact that 100% of energy consumption be met by renewable sources by 2030, which is what Sam is going to be talking about specifically today. In 2015, the Climate Action Plan was adopted. In 2016, we got the bronze certificate from New York State Climate Smart Communities. 2017, don't you love the fact that not a year has gone by without something really significant? And this is not everything. I just picked out a few highlights, really, to sort of share with everyone who might be watching this. 2017, the town building code was amended to have new construction meet the Hare's Index of 54. And it might very well be that the building codes are a way for us ultimately to go in achieving what we want to achieve via electrification as we look towards this roadmap. 2018, the launch of Energize occurred, and you heard about that earlier with Solarize today. We'll probably end up having to do a heat pumperize shortly. That may be our next recommendation, but that happened. 2019, the Acabonic Solar Farm, for God's sake. I mean, that was sort of a big deal. The fleet efficiency policy in 2020, that just means, and the CCA enabling legislation. I mean, we were a little obstacled by LIPA, but we're going to get there with that, I fully believe. In 2021, the host agreement was signed with the South Fork Wind Farm. I mean, what an unbelievable piece of work that you guys did. And I know that you're constantly battling one lawsuit after the other that is trying to keep you from doing the right thing, but boy, oh boy, did you do the right thing with that, gotta say. 2022, we already had 165 solar rooftop installations. That's not so shabby, although we're a community that can definitely do a few more of those. 2023, the first municipal solar and storage project on Long Island was unveiled. Peter was there, I saw him, that was cool. The street lights all being replaced by LEDs. 2,700 Kelvin. I mean, this is really not so bad. And we only have street lights in 6% of East Hampton. You know, somehow when there's a lot of fuss being made about nothing, I just think, oh, stop with the fuss. Let's just get on with it. So there's only some things that we need to do to respond to the climate crisis. We need to mitigate. We need to take action to reduce or eliminate the emissions of greenhouse gases. You will hear more about this with the roadmap because they take the same position that we do. And we need to adapt. We need to strengthen our ability to prepare for our threats. We need to take action to adapt and improve our ability to recover from adverse conditions and events when they occur, because they are for sure going to occur. I'm so grateful to introduce you again to Sam Klein, who I consider to be a major miracle in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena.
Thank you, Lena. Lena is one of my favorite people to work with, and I just really appreciate her being here to kind of introduce this project. This is a project that has been an idea for a long time. I mean, the town really made such an excellent goal of what we want our climate mitigation plan to look like for this town. So I just want to thank Lena for giving that climate emergency context to why we even did this project. So the town hired GDS Associates and Optiny. They presented at the October 17th work session. Their presentation was very technical. Part of the report is about their greenhouse gas emissions inventory. They study market trends and forecasts, and they also did community surveys to see what the public's input would be and what would be supported policies or preferred policies. That analysis really made sure that every recommendation that's being made is backed by data, which we think is so important. That even some of these ideas are completely new, which is excellent for the town, and even some of the ones that maybe we had thought of, at least now we know what their impact is financially. They also did a town staff hours impact of what it would take in terms of personnel to get some of these projects done. So there are a few core concepts in here that we wanted to mention, just to make sure that our approach to the energy and sustainability projects are logical, efficient, and kind of take a holistic view. Electrification of vehicles and buildings should be met with more deployment of renewable energy like solar to make sure that the power being pulled is clean. Economically, it makes sense to ensure buildings have a high level of efficiency too, so they'll be using less energy regardless of if it's fossil fuel or renewable based. And then really local governments, we have such an opportunity here to really set an example. The town has more than 30 municipal buildings and we have over 200 vehicles. And so there's such an opportunity for us to make sure that we're doing our part here in terms of electrification efforts, but also having that being met with solar. Even currently right now, the town received a grant to do more electric vehicle charging stations. And instantly with that project, we're also looking at another opportunity simultaneously with NYSERDA to do some sort of solar canopy over those charging stations. So that way we know that that energy being pulled is from solar. Even interest in some sort of battery storage component to see if we can make sure that those are operational even if we lose power or anything. And then a key part of this is that the town's goals is for community-wide energy consumption to be met with renewables. So really the community members are going to be the huge factor in all this, getting them to participate, trying to reduce any hurdles that come up that would prevent someone from participating, and making sure that the information is out there so people can make their choices. So one of the highest impact recommendations in this report is for the town to pursue a CCA, a community choice aggregation. It's a program where the town can buy electricity packages on behalf of our community members, so that way there's more transparent and local control of what sources of energy are serving us. The choice part of community choice aggregation is in what that fuel type is. So we would want to look for solar compared to fossil fuel. Nuclear could be an option. So the town of Southampton is currently already in the process of this. Lena connected us with a couple of people at Southampton Town. So her, myself, Kim and Kate are going to meet with them sometime next week to go over what their process and experience has been so far, learn from our regional partner here and see if there's opportunity for us to team up with them or just learn from them. So otherwise, our next real step with CCA would be to release an RFP for an administrator. RFP templates are available through NYSERDA, so we would already have some assistance going into this, so we could move on this pretty quickly if there was interest.
Yeah, I just want to jump in here and just remind everyone that we already passed community choice aggregation legislation. And so we already have the process in place for what committee that would be that would make these choices, including finance department, supervisor, and others to help us make this decision. So we already did I think the very hard work. We've been waiting for a kind of a holdup from the contracts that LIPA has in place for electricity generation on Long Island being tied to electricity produced on Long Island with fossil fuel plants, the only ones that exist right now. But I believe there are some workarounds that we can now attempt in the future, and that's what I hope to learn more from our regional partners in Southampton.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Yeah, that's exactly right. A lot of the hard work of this has already been done, so there's a strong foreground that we're already moving on with this. Community solar is another option recommended here. It's similar in participants can buy or lease a portion of solar panels in an array. They can be on-site or off-site, but this is a great option for people who are interested in doing solar but might not be able to afford the upfront cost of it and see those cost savings over time with that initial cost. Or, we're very proud of our clearing coverage restrictions in this town, and I think people themselves like the screening and like the nature aspects. So for everyone, solar might not make sense for them to do on their individual rooftop for different reasons like that. So this is an opportunity that people can sign up for. We actually have a further recommendation in the roadmap that even this would be a good idea, especially for affordable housing units because of that upfront cost. We just want to make sure that the renewable energy transition is a just one and there's available opportunity for everyone.
And we're already working on expanding our solar footprint here in town with the Just Transition MOU that we've all been a part of, and I think we're going out on a tour soon of possible sites, town-owned sites, municipal sites, where we can expand our solar footprint.
Yeah, that's going to be a really great program for the town to really maximize what we're doing on our own properties. We submitted a lot of sites to that program, which is really great. They were very willing to work with us. Normally, they're looking for communities that have very large vacant parcels of land to do one massive array on, but we explained that that's, not entirely, we want to prioritize preservation wherever we can, and also we have a good amount of properties already under development. We also have an affordable housing crisis that we've been all hands on. So this is a good opportunity where we're selecting individual buildings and properties for them to consider and package together, so that way they're more appealing for a developer to come out, being that we have multiple buildings that could be suitable. In terms of other things to maximize what we're doing on our municipal buildings, electrification of heating equipment. So the town already passed a resolution, as Lena mentioned, about converting all of our HVACs away from fossil fuels. So we're already in the process of this, and town staff is working on doing these conversions for the sanitation office, on Springs Fireplace, for the police department. And we have a few other feasibility studies that have already been done. The roadmap does take this recommendation a potential step further, that if we did want to look at more of a timeline, that we wanted all of our buildings to be upgraded by, let's say, 2030, then we can either look at doing a certain number of buildings per year, or if we were comfortable with setting aside a certain budgetary amount and then prioritizing whichever buildings should be upgraded first for either highest impact or highest need. Also doing level 2 or level 3 energy audits for all of our facilities. So this would just be making sure that everything is running as efficiently as possible. Energy isn't being lost, or where it is, we're doing smaller acts to try to fix that. East Hampton Town is a clean energy community, and so there are small sum grants that we are eligible for when we do certain actions, and this is an approved project by them, so that could be a potential avenue for us to get these done. Yeah, and then so the non-municipal buildings is pretty much everything else, which is the majority of everything. And so we really want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support residents to do on-site renewable energy, electrify where they can, do electric vehicles and energy efficiency. So the Energize East Hampton program, it already has a green heating and cooling campaign, and we were discussing the Solarize campaign earlier. Free home energy audits are also available. But there's a recommendation that we might want to expand and do other programs too. We could do an electric vehicle campaign where we would call local dealerships and see if we can connect interested people with those dealers. Or also our solar company, they brought up how they do battery storage. They were talking about how that might become a much more popular thing for people to be interested in. LIPA is doing time of use rates likely in the coming year. I think it's been delayed from its original start date of early in 2024, but it is coming. And so with battery storage, you can draw from that rather than from the higher time of use rates that would be enforced. So the time of use is that you would, when you're pulling during peak demand, it would be at a higher rate, and when you're pulling off peak, it would be at a lower rate. So it could be advantageous for certain people to alter their behavior. But for some people, it might be difficult. You know, everyone gets home from work at the same time and everyone wants to go to bed at the same time. So if you had battery, then that would alleviate some of those issues. So our solar partner actually brought that up to us. So that could be kind of an additional tag-on campaign that we're looking to get the word out on. Then in terms of education and awareness of opportunities, we think that there are certain avenues of communication that the town can definitely be in a good position to get the word out there. So when people are coming in for building permits and doing larger jobs, we can also provide them with information of, oh, well, you're doing a new roof anyway. Well, here's some information on the Solarize campaign, or here's some information on green heating and cooling. And then what we were also talking about earlier with LTV, they have such a great venue for us that we're doing these workshops on, where we have expert panels giving advice, answering questions. And so we want to make sure that we're utilizing that for really anything. Biddle and Lena have both been super involved and helpful with the organization of those and the free-flowing conversation of them. So we've already done one on electric vehicles and all electric homes, but there's potential for us to do many more, and we want to make sure we're utilizing that. And sustainable landscaping, that was a good one too.
Yeah, and again, in the spirit of not throwing anything out, those conversations being recorded at LTV are reusable and a resource that we can maintain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to be able to look back and link and share. So some more ways is to look at streamlining permitting. So the town does have a fast track permit for solar where we're able to issue those pretty quickly and without cost, and people don't have to worry about other things on their property requiring a full inspection. So the solar is just a fast track. We want people to be encouraged to do it. We don't want to have big hurdles on it. So some other programs that we might look at for streamlined could be electric vehicle charging stations, that if we really wanted to get those in and encourage them to just try to make that as easy as possible for people to install them and make them available. The range anxiety is still a thing, that if people are purchasing a car, they worry about coming out to the East End or driving anywhere far and having a place to charge their vehicle. So making sure that businesses, hotels, retail stores, that if they have the space and want to do an electric vehicle charging station, that we can assist them in doing that or making it easy. Also, a partnership with LIPA or PSENG is also recommended in the roadmap. I think that could be a really strong partnership. We're kind of already paying for their programs because we're all customers, and so it's kind of roped into our electricity rates. So if we can have more of their great programs, resources going to the town of East Hampton, I mean, that just seems like a win for everyone, and they want their programs to be successful and have as many participants as possible. So that's laid out in the roadmap as having an ongoing communication and partnership, but kind of a point person delegated on both ends of how we can best get the information out there and make sure that the programs are really getting localized. Building codes we're going to be talking about soon. So the town had the stretch code and did an update to it to make sure that our building standards are really strict in terms of energy efficiency. I mean, our building stock is a huge energy consumer, so having those built to a very high efficiency level is critical to our goals. And we're going to be talking later about an all-electric code introduction through Kate and Lena. Another big energy project recommended in the roadmap is to really explore microgrids of solar and battery storage. This would be both with our sustainability goals and our resiliency goals. So this could make it that in a power outage or anything, people would have power before, during, and after any sort of major events. The first step would really be a feasibility study on everything In the roadmap, it's also recommended that we prioritize any critical facilities, emergency facilities, public facilities, anything where having power is deemed extra critical by us. So the first step is a feasibility study. Our subcontractor on this project said that if we were interested, they can provide us with some sort of cost estimate so we know what we would be getting into and can plan to do this. There's some great grant opportunities out there too. My understanding is they might be more for the implementation side of this sort of thing. So potentially if we were willing to go through with a study, then maybe we can then apply to a FEMA grant or something like that. Okay, there's a ton of content in this report, but I thought that those things would be the best to highlight. But I wanted to open the floor for any comments or questions, and definitely, Lena, if I missed anything, feel free to come on up. But
Board members have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that, Peter, through Larry's leadership, then your leadership, and certainly Sylvia's leadership, we were one of the first community on the East End to have a climate action plan and have climate goals in place. That served us very well for many, many years. And the town board fortuitously saw a need to update for the next steps on how we accomplish our goals. And I think the recommendations in this roadmap that were developed with the consultants, with the Natural Resources Department, and with the members of the Energy Sustainability Committee are specific to East Hampton. And will really do promote and meet the goals for the next set of items to meet our goal of 100% renewable energy. So I know when we got the presentation from the consultants, there was hundreds of pages of graphs and charts, but for us in this community and for this town board who are action orientated, wanted to bring Sam back for the list of recommendations that are really the bottom line of moving forward with our commitment.
So for myself, this is a good discussion. There's a very dense documentation, very dense information to pick it apart to see what the attainable goals are. I think they're very fair and reasonable. And I look forward to moving them ahead. So it'd be nice to potentially from here, once we come back and say, what can we do in first quarter, second quarter, third, fourth of 24, not necessarily 25, 26. What can we obtain this year? We could put that either into our capital funding plans moving ahead. But what challenges does each department want to take on? Each board member want to take on? Myself take on then too. And a lot of the stuff I would do it. So it's nice for you to put it together in this fashion.
So we're also looking to adopt the plan and to adopt it into the comprehensive plan so that we can start moving forward.
Well, Kate, to your point earlier, we've been on this track since Supervisor Cantwell came into office. And if you'll excuse the pun, re-energized the town board's direction. And, we were the first community in New York State to adopt 100% renewable energy goals. And, we, I think, here in East Hampton benefit so much from both our residents' awareness of our climate changes, as well as the need to protect our environment, as well as having had that continuity on the town board. And Lena read off, year by year, some of the things that we've accomplished, but we have actually accomplished quite a bit, but there's so much more to do. And I just think the town's well situated to continue with that effort with the incoming board and supervisor and the continuance of, dedicated individuals who, serve on our resident, committees. I just want to acknowledge Biddle Duke, who's in the audience today from the Energy Sustainable Committee, and of course Lena, stalwarts for this effort. And we rely to a great degree on our citizens to help us move these efforts forward. So carry on is all I can say.
Thank you, Peter. And also, when you think about
James
our
also here
Our community also, being in the forefront of many things, we're also on the forefront of the vulnerabilities and the impacts. So we're practicing, we need to be first, not only to meet our prior commitments, but also to protect our community and sustain its existence moving forward.
I do have a question, Sam, and I don't know if you'd be able to answer it, but I've gotten outreach from the New York League of Conservation Voters. We're, New York State Climate Smart Community. We've got the bronze certification, and they were kind of nudging us to see if we would take that next step to try to become a silver, certified community. I know that I understand there's over 100 bronze, but there's like 10 silver communities. I don't know if that's something that's
So we have to
on
be
your
silver.
radar right now, or if there are other things that we really need to put our resources.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Let me look into it and see what the next step would be to get us that designation. Yeah, I know we've been maybe more focused on the clean energy communities, which is a partner to the climate smart communities. The clean energy communities, we get those grants from doing the different action items, which are huge. Let me look into the climate smart communities and we'll figure out what the next steps are to try to get that silver.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
No, and just quickly, Sylvia was out of the room, but I just want to acknowledge all the work you did on creating the climate action plan in the
Thank you.
past and getting us on this road.
Again, it was a group of citizens that really helped put that together. So, we've got a really smart community.
It's not just climate smart, it's just
It
plain,
is,
just
right.
plain smart.
They're just plain smart.
Great. All right. In that case, we can move on.